Hey guys, it's Jackie Felix here. Today we're just going to be going through a complete guide to Succession Wizard for June of 2020. And we'll kind of go through all the important stuff such as, the advantages of playing Succession Wizard, the skill add-ons, skill selection for both PvE and PvP, as well as I'll go through a set of combos both for 1v1 as well as large scale. And yeah, we'll cover through some other stuff as well along the way. I'm going to make this guide as short as possible and as informative as possible. So let's get started. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly compare Succession Wizard to Awakening Wizard and the advantages and disadvantages of it. So I'll start off with the advantages. First of all, the mobility is probably the biggest advantage in Succession Wizard. Not only do you get two split teleports compared to the single teleport of Awakening, but you also have other protected movement skills such as Earth Response and Evade Earthquake, which is really huge. It makes you a lot more mobile in the field. The other advantage is that a Succession Wizard can dish out damage a lot faster due to being able to animation cancel most of its skills. So you can engage a lot faster and disengage a lot faster. As well as that, you do also have greater range pressure, which does do higher damage and also has protection. So example of this is high voltage, the foreign guard skill, or stuff like your residual lightning, blizzard, and meteor. So the disadvantage is what you lose out compared to awakening. For example, you lose out on defensive stats for your e-buff, which also no longer shares with other people in your party, platoon, or guild. You also don't have the Sage's ability, so you cannot do Sage PA or like a Sage Meteor. Apart from that, you lose your ranged AoE slow, which is your retard Dino. And you pretty much have a lot shorter SA rotation compared to Awakening, which can almost infinitely rotate SAs. More for 1v1s, you lose out on your pet, so you lose out on the ability to pet stiffen, pretty much. You also lose out on your grab and S block, as well as your ability to switch between awakening and unawakening stances. So, there's definitely a lot of advantages and disadvantages when comparing Succession to Awakening Wizard. One last thing you gotta remember is that for Awakening, it does scale a lot better at lower AP levels due to how the Awakening pet flow skills work. Now, just quickly in terms of grind spots and stuff, I'm not going to go through this in depth too much because there's other videos out for that. But pretty much, as a Succession Wizard, you're going to need a lot of skill points. So I'll probably recommend you start off just grinding polys, getting skill points, and then once you reach around about 245 or 250 plus AP with Kudum, you can start looking at going to Ackman or Histria and grinding out those spots. And then once you get like over 269 or around over 281 Kudum, you can look at possibly switching over to grind spots like Star's End, Underwater, or like Abandoned Monastery. But you gotta watch out for your DP as well. Now, before we go on to the skill selection tree for Succession, I just want to quickly go through the endgame build I have, which is pretty much full C9 evasion, full pen apart from accessories. Now, I used to be full pen C9 DRAP before I was hybrid evasion. I can tell you that for endgame gear, when you're hitting above 650 gear score, definitely hybrid evasion is stronger than DR since you're a lot tankier, but you still dish out a huge or large amount of damage. You do lose out on a little bit of DPS compared to DR, but your survivability is a lot better, and so that makes you a better skirmisher as well as you help you survive longer in the fights. Alright, so now we'll just go through the skill tree for Succession Wizard. I'll just firstly start off with my PvP selection. So for PvP, you would take the Fireball Explosion Aerial with the knockdown. This is just because the KD is huge and has a pretty decent area effect. And while yes, you do slightly more damage using the focus one, and it does have a very small super armor, just having another range KD is really important. For your meteor, I would take the aerial meteor and not the focus meteor for PvP, just because this one has a range knockdown. This is one of your strongest skills on Succession Wizard and for Awakening Wizard as well. So this is a huge skill, and you really only take the focus for PvE. PvE version does only have forward guard as well. The This one, the aerial, is kind of forward guard while you're starting the cast of media, and as soon as it starts to hit the ground, it's super armor. It also has stiffness at the start and knockdown at the end. Okay, so next one, for the lightning, residual lightning, I would take the combo version for PvP just because this is a really good super armor extender, and it goes straight up after your lightning, and it does have a gap at the end of the skill where it's like similar to Thunderstorm. So you kind of got to cancel out that skill at the end, or else you'll get CC'd. But it has a really large area effect. It doesn't do that much damage, but I've always been able to pick up kills using the skill. So I'd recommend using combo for PvP. But it doesn't have any CC. Now, for the separate lightning skill, I will take high voltage just because this is a charging frontal guard skill, a forward guard skill that gives you frontal guard. Sorry, yep. And basically, the skill hits like a fucking truck. It has a decent area effect. It has plus 100% crit rate and 10% accuracy rate. It's on a relatively decent cooldown of 11 seconds, and you can hold this frontal guard for like, until it reaches around about like half your stamina bar. So that's decent. I think that's like almost like around 10 seconds you can hold it for. So yeah, I'll definitely take this, since the only other frontal guards you have would be your equilibrium break and your blizzard, as well as your media. Go through that later. Okay, so for the earthquake skill, I would highly recommend you take evade earthquake, just because it is a SA protected movement skill that does a decent amount of damage, has really good add-ons, and it also has a stiffen CC. Like this is a really good skill. You should take this for PvP, whether it's large scale, 1v1, small scale. This is definitely, I don't understand why people would take destruction over evade for PvP at all. This doesn't make sense. For your earth response, I would take the destruction one, but you can also take the flow one. The flow one gives you a float, but the skill really isn't protected. It's only protected while you're moving, which is like a fraction of a second. The destruction one does have a very small gap at the start of the skill, but you can linger the skill at the end, and it's like full SA protection. I've gotten CC out of this very low number of times in large scale, and it's a really good movement super armor protected skill. So I would take this one for large scale, and maybe if you want to do like fancy 1v1 small scale stuff, you can take the flow as well. But yeah. Alright, for the Frigifog, of course, you will take the control version and not the disrupt version, since this one not only has a freeze, it does more damage, and also, yeah, like just take the control version of Frigifog. That's pretty self-explanatory. Now, for the Blizzard, you should not take the domain one, because the domain one, it really doesn't do any damage in PvP. Even if you just hit one person, it really doesn't do that much damage. Whereas this one, you can hold the frontal guard and not cast it, and you have a frontal guard skill. And when you do cast it, the first couple seconds, it actually does a decent amount of damage, even if you're hitting a ball. And it applies like a ranged area effect slow. So you can slow your entire ball. This is a really amazing skill to use. And does a shitload of damage, especially if you're range poking someone in 1v1 or on top of a roof or something. So definitely take the Storm version over the domain version of PvP. Now, I recommend that most people take Pulse instead of Bolide, and take Equilibrium Break instead of Aquagel. But I really don't see why you would take Bolide over Voltaic, or you can maybe take Aquagel over Equilibrium, but I think Equilibrium is a really good skill to have in your kit for PvP. Alright, cool. Now since we're going through the PvP version, let's talk about PvE. Now for PvE is pretty straightforward. You want to take as much damage as you can, and so you want to dish out as much damage as possible, while and that's pretty much it. So for PvE, I will take the Fireball Explosion Focus, as well as the Prime Meteor Shower Focus for PvE. For the residual lightning, I'll take the high voltage version. And then for the separate lightning, it's kind of up to your choice. I prefer the combo version, but the high voltage, it also does really good damage and gives you protection as well. So it'd be useful in a grind spot like, I don't know, Star's End, underwater, or, places that hit really hard. For PvE, you can take the Destruction Earthquake, but I personally use the Evade Earthquake because I like the mobility. And then for PvE, I also take the Destruction Earth Response, but it really doesn't matter which one you take, just this one's a little bit more unprotected. And of course, Frigid still take the control version. And then for Blizzard, I will take the domain version just because it does do area of time damage, and also Storm you wouldn't say that much for PvE either. And then of course for PvE, I still take Voltaic and Equilibrium Break, but you can take Bolide. I don't see why you take Aquagel since it's a slow skill, but you can take that too. PvE doesn't really matter that much. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the skill selection for Succession. So I'll just quickly go through my PvP add-ons for Succession Wizard. So the first one I'll take is Earthquake, and this gives you some really good skill modifiers, both offensively and defensively. So I take all defense plus 15, as well as the critical hit rate for plus 20%. And basically, if you use the Earthquake evade skill, this is a really strong initiation skill, since that 20% critical hit rate is pretty huge. Next one I take is for Meteor Shower. Now for Meteor Shower, I should take the PvP attack. Now for the second add-on, you can kind of choose which one you want. But so you can choose between reducing the MP, WP, SP as well, or you can choose minus 4% cast speed or minus 4% attack speed. Doesn't really, it depends on the scenario. But I usually take the 10 HP recovery just because it usually hits a lot of people, and this helps me sustain better in large scale engagements and fights. It's really important that you also take Fireball as an add-on for PvP and PvE as well. This is a really, the skills on really low cooldown, does decent damage in succession, and it has some really good offensive modifiers on it. So basically, for PvP, you would choose the PvP attack plus 10. Apart from that, you can also choose either the all accuracy plus 5% for 12 seconds, which is huge against evasion targets, or you can choose. Sorry, what I was meant to say is that you should always pick up the cast speed plus 10 first, because that's huge, and then as your secondary, you can either choose plus 10 PvP attack or plus 5% accuracy. Do not choose the 15% chance of down smash though. That's yeah. Not really. Okay, so for our succession skills, the first one picked up was Frigifog for all PvP attack plus 5 and all accuracy plus 3%. Frigifog is one of your hardest hitting skills in succession, especially when they're on the ground. Next one I take is Earth Response. Now, I just use the skill so much, the SA Earth Response with no CC, because it's such a good mobility SA extension tool that you can linger that SA as well. And I get so for PvP, you should, instead of having the plus 20 attack against monsters, you should probably have either the PvP attack, and then you can also have the critical hit rate as well. So if you want a pure PvP focus, that's what you will go for: Earth response, PvP attack, and critical hit rate, pretty much. The one after that is, of course, your Voltaic Pulse. This is the same one you'll take for Awakening, which is the plus 10 defense and plus 5% evasion rate. I wouldn't really recommend changing out these two, but if you're not like an evasion build, if you're a DR build and you don't really care for the extra 5% evasion, you can also choose to select the bleed damage modifier as well. Pretty sure all the others are kind of garbage. So yeah, these are the PvP modifiers I'll take for my Succession Wizard. So now we'll go through the PvE add-ons for Succession Wizard. Now changing some of these out for Earthquake, instead of taking the plus 15 defense, you would take the plus 20 monster damage, as well as the crit rate as well. If you're grinding a place like maybe underwater or something like that, you can maybe switch it out for defense if you feel like you're a little bit squishy. I wouldn't use Meteor Shower. Instead, I'll switch that to Lightning, your Lightning skill here. And I would select Cast Speed plus 7%, as well as the attack against monsters. So this is for like a kind of like a pure PvE build. For Fireball, all you need to do is switch out the PvP attack. This is your largest modifier for PvE with 25 plus 25 monster damage, and then also take the cast speed as well. So after that, for your Frigid Fog, you would choose, instead of the PvP attack, since I know sometimes mana can be an issue in Succession, you can take this add-on, which instantly recovers 10 MP per hit, and apart from that, you can also take the movement speed add-on as well, plus 7%, so that's pretty nice. You don't need too many PvE monster add-ons since they'll kind of overlap each other. After that, for Earth Response, instead of taking Earth Response, I would take Equilibrium Break. And for Equilibrium Break, I would take the critical hit rate, as well as the bleed damage for that. The last skill, of course, is Voltaic Pulse, and for Voltaic Pulse, instead of having the old defense and evasion, which is more for PvP, for PvE, you can take the bleed damage add-on, as well as the MP recovery if you want, or you can also take the old defense plus 10. So yeah, that would be kind of like my general PvE add-ons for Succession Wizard. Of course, you can kind of tweak these add-ons to what suits you. I would recommend you play around with it a bit yourself, but this is probably what I would be running if I was grinding like endgame grind spots like Hystria, Ackman, Underwater, or Star's End or Abandoned Monastery. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful for you guys.